And so, it begins. Dark were the skies and chill was the wind as the land was covered in a veil of malice. Across the hill did ride a dread army of the night, cloaked in mist and fog, prepared to rain down death and destruction upon the land. And the people did cry out for a savior, a noble soul to save them from their impending demise. Just as it seemed all was lost, in strode a mighty hero, clad in shivering metal from head to toe. Wielding a terrible broadsword, he did cleave his foes in two, smashing their ranks asunder with righteous fury. And when the day was done and the enemy strewn across the fields in pieces, the people did turn to the warrior and say, "We shall name this day in your honor. Speak unto us your wisdom." The warrior said one word that day: epic.
One man, one Murloc, one giant angry badger. This is Blue Please. It begins now. Yes, indeed, folks. Welcome to Two Please here on cynicalbit.com with myself, TotalBiscuit. The date today is the 17th of April 2010. It's a Saturday. Not exactly usual, is it? I wanted to do this show for one reason only, and that's so that I could actually get on the damn dev chat. And you know what? The dev chat has been incredibly disappointing. I don't know if you've actually read this yet, but there is so little in it. There is so little actual content in the dev chat. It's kind of crazy, but I will endeavour to fill as much time as possible with this, as well as read your emails. Well, what we got coming for the show today, I can tell you, it's going to be the dev chat, no doubt about that. That was what went out on Twitter last night. Not an awful lot of it, but there's enough to fill some time. Also going to be doing a live Q&A. Haven't done this for a very long time. I'm going to give you the chance to ask whatever questions you want about WoW or otherwise in a quick-fire manner. Go drop them into the chat room, and not yet, because that wouldn't be any use to anybody. I'm not paying attention to it right now. What you can do is you can send me the questions via the chat room. Go to cynicalbit.com, click the chat button at the bottom of the screen, and you will see the wonders of the video chat, the studio cam, and all that good stuff. Go on there, and when I ask you, send me some PMs. I believe you do that by... Let's see, I think you click on my name and you click on send private message. If you want, you can leave me some messages now and I'll get to them later. So any questions you got, WoW related, whatever the hell you want, future of the site, something like that, send me a message and I shall do a Q&A towards the end of the show. And of course, your chance to contribute in a different way. It's the illusion of choice. Yes, indeed, folks. Send me an email to themurloc@cynicalbit.com. That is themurloc@cynicalbit.com with your chance to contribute to the show. Pick up a topic. Something good, something interesting. Do so, and I may read it. Incredible, is it not? Well, that horse video's been doing rather well, hasn't it? Good lord. As of now, we're sitting on about 100,000 views. Yes, indeed, 100,000 views. And I wonder how many of those guys were trolled successfully. I'm willing to bet quite a few. Oh, it's great. It's awesome. It's fantastic. I love it. I really do. I think it's going to be a shame, though, if that's my most successful video. But what I will say is that, considering the success of it, I think I'm going to have to do a few more of those. Look for a hot button issue. Yes. Come up with a little video, throw it together in 13 minutes, put it on the internet, suddenly instant 100,000 views. It's awesome, isn't it? And I'd like to welcome all of those who have joined the podcast, new to the show, thanks to that video. I'm sure there are a few of you. Welcome, welcome. You have discovered the most cynical, the most angry, the most ranty podcast on the planet. That's just the way we roll, ladies and gentlemen. If you're not in the chat room, I suggest you head there. Well, look at cynicalbit.com is the email address, but the actual chat room is available on cynicalbit.com. Click the chat button at the bottom of the screen. You will see many people, our wall of faces. We have B-Drone, who is menacing people with a plastic scythe and spinning around. He is our token guy of ethnicity. He makes us look a little bit more cosmopolitan. It's very important in a sea of pale white males aged 18 to 35. Actually, maybe no wives a bit older than that. So he's our token geriatric, as you can see there in the chat. We also have one avatar who is not doing anything in particular. We have some guy who has pointed the cam at his window. There is nothing there. We have a stuffed Murky rotating on a turntable. Yes, that and many more, the wonders of what you can find here in the chat room. Dear Lord. One wonders why we bother. Mainly because it's a lot of fun. Now, if you're in the IRC channel, well, you're in the wrong place, honestly. Really. But, regardless, I suppose you can hang around there. In the meantime, I suppose we better get some emails on. We don't honestly have an awful lot of emails, and that's not a really big surprise, considering we usually have one show a week. We don't have a show within 24 hours of the last one. That's rather unusual. It takes time for the show to get to iTunes, people to listen to it, then send the emails in, and all the good stuff. And since that has not happened, well, we'll trawl through. We'll see if we can find anything. I'm sure there'll be something in the mailbag somewhere. So, without further ado...
Mail time! That sounds like... It's mail time! Here's the mail.
It never fails.
It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes,
I want to wail.
Yes, indeed, folks, it's mail time. It's the time where we read the mail, and we do, in fact, have some emails that were just hanging around at the bottom of the mailbag. Nothing wrong with that. Just chilling, relaxing, all cool. No, don't get me started. Right, so, this one is from Critters. He's the level 80 Troll Priest. Guild is Angel Fury. Area 52 US. And he says this: Lord TotalBiscuit. That is not my official title, just FYI. I agree with you on the retarded horse thing. Its originality became a moot point nearly overnight. Anyone paying $25 for nothing but a digital signature is quite pathetic. I recently earned a Black Drake from OS3D. It's been around for a long time, and guess what? Not everyone has it. That's actually true, as it happens. Even though a lot of people have now done OS3D, that Drake is not the most common of mounts, and at least it demonstrates some degree of achievement, even if you can just bum rush that boss in 58 seconds now. Anyway. It was earned through teamwork in a raid, and not just by spewing cash into Blizzard's pocket. What's even worse is the other two new pets, Little XT and Katie. Haven't quite entirely got the gist of it. I think two people have to bring them together, but not sure. But there's an extremely annoying cry/voice that is going off consistently in Dalaran due to those new pets. Pests is what I call them. It's become a new toy for the 12-year-olds, and they've managed to irritate and piss off any sane person who needs to gather players for raids in a city. Thank you, Blizzard. If they had any sense to them whatsoever, they'd turn off that annoying noise. Yeah, that's something they did not think of at all. There has been a response to this, a blue response on the forums as it happens, which is a good thing. I'm happy with that. It's very important that they have recognised it as an issue. The fact of the matter is that what's happening, from what I can tell, is that the Little XT is making a crazy, crazy loud noise. Like, he's doing the no, 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 no thing, which I don't have a sample for, so I don't need to demonstrate. I could just press this button. It's the universal sound of money, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, this thing makes a really loud, annoying noise, and to be honest, it severs any goodwill that I had towards that boss. I mean, that boss used to be fun, those sand samples used to be great, but now they've provided a way to just spam it in the middle of a city. It's incredibly infuriating. Oh, I am thankful that I am not raiding this weekend, because I'd be dealing with that otherwise. I did log in for a little while, actually, to have a look at how many retarded horses were in Dalaran. There were quite a few, needless to say. I decided to take a screenshot as well. So, amongst other things, one of the accusations that's been leveled towards me about this whole retarded horse thing is that I'm jealous of the horse. Now, of course, let's ignore the fact that the advertising revenue raised from the video and the extra hits that the site got could more than pay for a horse if I wanted. But apparently I must be jealous of the horse. Well, I put together a little image and I posted it for you in the chat room on cynicalbrit.com. Yes, go have a look at that one. Yeah, it's difficult, honestly. When you're riding around on this pimpin' bear, and you're wearing this pimpin' Murloc suit that is at least not covered in fur, thank God, and you've got this big Murky, which you fed a pet biscuit to, and then you're standing next to that stupid, stretchy-looking horse. Tell me which looks cooler. Yeah, no argument about that whatsoever, quite frankly. Okay, anyway, let's get back to this email. I'm going off on a tangent. So, anyway, he says, on another note, my guild was in vent the other night after downing Rotface and Festigut Woods. Yes, congratulations to that. That's the first sort of really reasonable hurdle that you've got to bypass in ICC. It's not all that easy, and it's not incredibly hard either, but hey. Anyway, they were talking about the guild that we recently separated from due to a conflict of interest, and other stuff, but we won't get into that. One of the members had suggested that Blizzard should create an arena strictly for guild versus guild. I'd like to know what you think of that, as I think it would be an excellent idea to be able to put the best against the best of two guilds in the same faction. I've heard on one of your previous shows that some guilds have rivalries against other guilds. Why not let them battle it out in PvP in some way, with ranking similar to guild progression? I don't see why not, honestly. That seems like a perfectly reasonable idea. The thing about guilds is that, and this is something I want to change in Cataclysm, is that they serve barely any purpose in a strictly technical sense. I mean, obviously it's a gathering of players, but you can do anything that a guild can do simply by having a group of people on your friends list. I mean, that's all a guild is right now, a glorified friends list. I'd like to see that changed in a way that actually makes sense, and of course, that's what Cataclysm is doing. It would make sense to have guild versus guild battles. I mean, clan wars have been going on since the dawn of time. There is an entire game called Guild Wars. I think it's safe to say that it's a good idea and that some people do want it. As to why they haven't done it yet, I mean, it's a little bit of a mystery, isn't it, honestly? It's quite surprising that it hasn't happened as of yet. But we'll see what Cataclysm brings. Maybe they'll break it out there. That would be rather amusing. Now let's have a look and see what else we've got in terms of the mailbag. Dig through. If not, we'll be going to a music break, and we'll be talking about this silly Twitter chat thing. Yes, indeed. Let's have a look. Oh, yes. A reminder from someone, Pariasi, what the hell? Pasiency. What the hell is that? I don't know. What the hell ever his name is. wowinterface.com/info16373-tidyplatesepeen.html. There is now an epeen mod in the theme of that crazy April Fool's joke. That's silly, isn't it? Ridiculous. Well worth having a look at, though, needless to say. And I think that's probably about it for the time being, other than an awful lot of shouts. Oh no, actually, got a few more. Here's one. This one's from Cameron Burton, aka Gargoyle, the level 80 paladin on Ruin, Ice Crown US. He says this: I agree with the mentality, if you're not raiding, why do you need raid gear? However, to get rid of the idea that raid gear should be for everyone, there needs to be a way to progress your characters in some other fashion, since currently gear and achievements are the only ways that allow your character to progress. What do you think about implementing a system which allows people to progress their characters, and what do you think rated BGs would be the answer? Well, it's an interesting point. I think, honestly, there should be an awful lot of ways to progress your character. Even if some of them are incredibly... what's the word I'm looking for? Incredibly superficial. And achievements are superficial, but some people care about that. That's become abundantly clear. So, if that's the case, one has to wonder what else would people care about. What would people progress through? What would people willingly do? What kind of activities would people willingly participate in order to progress their character in some way? Huh? It's a tangential progression. I'm pretty sure that's not how you pronounce it, but I don't care. Progression in a bunch of different directions. Things that aren't necessarily obvious. Things that aren't necessarily quantifiable numerically. Like, say, increasing your stats. Achievements is a prime example of that, but even that's a stat that can be progressed. I would ask, what about things that are purely cosmetic, that just take a lot of work? Say, I could perhaps modify... let's have a think. I could modify the way that my cloak looks. I mean, there's a couple of things coming in, these overcloaks, that are supposed to provide a way to change the colour of the cloak that you currently have. What about progressing through and getting things that you can add to your armor. I mean, if you think about it, Warhammer Online's done this. It's not too difficult. I remember back in Warhammer Online, one of the coolest things that I found is that you were able to put on a little spoon. Yes, indeed. You get a trophy that was a spoon, and you could hang it from your shoulder. That was kind of neat. Makes me wonder whether or not people would go out of their way to progress something like that. Would a PvPer willingly have a trophy rack on his back, and the more PvP kills he gets, the more trophies he can acquire? That's a method of progression that is entirely superficial, but I can bet my bottom dollar that people would actually go for it. Just anything like that. Anyway, my name is TotalBiscuit. You're listening to Blue Please here on CynicalBrit.com. I'll be back after the break to talk about this Twitter chat. We'll see what we have there. In the meantime, I'm going to play a track. Yes, indeed. Some Frank Lepaki wouldn't go amiss, quite frankly. The problem is there are so many good ones. Let's have a think. Which one could we go for? I've got so much Frank Lepaki music, it's just crazy. How about a classic, ladies and gents? Mechanical Man. I'll be right back after this. Enjoy. You know what? Why don't we play Mech Man 2 as well? It's awesome. Yes, indeed, folks, the sounds of both mechanical men. Here on Blue Please, on cynicalbrit.com, with myself, TotalBiscuit. It's more of a chilled-out show today. No big surprises. Last night was exhausting, needless to say, with the Blue Please and the shoutcraft and the crying and the screaming and the unpleasantness. I wonder if that YouTube video is going to surpass 10,000 views. That I would be... Oh, there we go. Yep, there we go. 100,972 views as of right now. Broke the 100k. Oh, yes. Never saw that one coming, did I? Good lord. Okay, ladies and gents. Let's talk a little about Twitter chat. And in the meantime, the chat room is lagging on cynicalbrit.com at the moment for some reason. Tiny Chat, the service we use, occasionally goes on the blink. You can send me any question for the Q&A later, either via the chat room, send me a PM on there, or on irc.quakenet.org in the # #CynicalBrit channel, or you can email the Murloc at cynicalbrit.com. Any of the above, do those, and we'll do the Q&A a little bit later. Any question you like, I don't really mind. If it's too weird and creepy, I won't answer it, just FYI. Prefer questions about WoW and stuff like that, as you might imagine. Okay. So, this Twitter dev chat, right, okay. Twitter dev chat happened last night. And we're going to go through this and see what's good. I like to do this whenever they do a dev chat. Simply because it's nice, easy content. And it's good to sort of dissect what they have to say. So, you can follow along if you wish by heading over to MMO Champion. Now, if you're listening to the live stream, this is the first one on there. It's called Blizz Chat. Developer chat on Twitter, 14/16. Otherwise, let's go and have a look at MMO Champion. If you listen to the archive, I'll also put a link to the show. Link to the show. What am I talking about? God, I'm losing my mind. A link to the site in the show notes on cynicalbrit.com. So, let's talk a little bit about this. First thing is first. They start off with a big section on Cataclysm. This is where most of the good meat comes in. We've got various categories that they talked about. A lot of info on Cataclysm, masteries, some class mechanic stuff, Cataclysm raids and dungeons, and some other stuff like items, PvP, and some class-specific stuff, which I don't really care about. We'll probably skip a lot of that, just for the sake of it. In the meantime, let's kick it off, shall we? Right, so they start off by putting out the questions, and then they give these quite short answer. The first question is this: do you intend to have all 280% flying mounts scaled to 310% when a 310% mount is earned, or will only the purchased mounts do so? The answer is this: our current plan is that in Cataclysm you can learn a new rank of flying that lets all flying mounts move at 310. Even current 280% mounts. That will probably be the fastest mounts we'll ever get. We don't like it when you get a 310 mount and you stop using your old ones as a result. Right, okay. I don't know how to feel about that, honestly. I understand the idea of training up new speeds and things, but I think the whole point of a 310 is that there is a degree of exclusivity. Now, that exclusivity is important to some people. I mean, some people are okay with it just being, hey, you know, it's a mount, blah, 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 and it looks nice, and that's fine. But in reality, it's nice that there was also a benefit to it. If you get rid of the 310, and you take away that exclusivity, and you say, you can just train this, then it's not special anymore, is it? Now, you can do that and then say, oh, well, here's 350, say, 350%. But the thing is, they said that it'll probably be the fastest that mounts will ever get. I'm not keen on that idea at all. Why not give people that achieve a slight edge? I mean, this is a convenience thing more so than anything. It's not about 30% faster on a scale. And that's not even that big a deal, honestly. So why make it trainable, of all things? I mean, personally, I like the idea that if you have a 310 mount, every mount should go at 310. Simple as that. Because that means that you have achieved the ability to do that via hard work. And then you can use whatever mount you want. That said, they haven't said how exactly you're going to learn this. It might be a gold thing, it might be a quest, it might even be from a raid dungeon. We don't really know that. Now, additional question follows up on this one. If 310 speed is becoming trainable, does that mean we'll be able to fly in Azeroth from the get-go? The answer is, we have considered the idea and the concept of old weather flying. Oh, that's terrible, really. That really is bad. It shouldn't surprise me, honestly. Blizzard coming up with some terrible puns. Just kidding. More than likely, you'll just be able to fly from the beginning. Cool. Excellent. I understand why they did that whole cold weather flying thing. It's like, we want you to experience the content, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry. Give people the choice. If they want to experience the content, they'll experience the content from the ground. If they don't, they'll fly over it. Big deal. Next question. You mentioned at BlizzCon that all races would be getting revamped racial abilities. Do you care to shed some light on any of them? Answer is this. We're going to do something similar to what we did in Wrath of the Lich King, where we just rehash them to make sure they're balanced and feel cool. Something you could see is dwarves getting a bonus to archaeology, or undead getting a new activated racial ability that will be more useful in PvE. That sounds good, honestly. And the idea of increasing the value of racials is incredibly important. It gives identity to classes that are now getting rather homogenized. I mean, if you've got class homogenization, then either you unhomogenize the classes, or you give diversity somewhere else. You've got to distinguish one player character from another. It's got to be more than just a skin. Honestly, it's got to be more than just a model swap. I've always been in favour of every racial being overpowered, as opposed to nerfing other racials down to a certain level. The problem with racials right now is that they all pretty much got hit with the nerf bat, and as a direct result of being hit with the nerf bat, they're not all that great anymore. They don't really distinguish the classes. People make the choice now, in regards to race, based on cosmetic appearance, as opposed to any actual benefits that you get. I mean, remember back in the day, when the stat bonuses actually sort of made a difference. Obviously, the stat bonuses for characters make no difference now whatsoever. They might as well not even be there. I mean, why is it that we can't have a little bit more diversity in that regard? What, we're going to cry about balance now? How about diversity? How about balance via variety? Yeah? Meta balance, as it were. We're not talking about a strict form of balance. We're talking about balance by having so many different elements enter the equation that balance ceases to become a factor anymore. This is not StarCraft. We don't have to worry so much about intricate balance. What we do have to worry about is the idea that someone is going to pick a race on the basis of something more than whether or not it looks cool. Because right now that's not happening at all. And that is a big deal for me. I want to see all of these racials revamped and made far more powerful and useful. Absolutely, go for that. I would be extremely happy with that one. Okay, and on we go. Let's have a look at the next question here, anyway. Can you give us some more information on how and what Path of the Titans will reward you with? Talent points, unlock talents? Okay, so this is the system here. The paths unlock a new kind of glyph called an ancient glyph. Those don't enhance class abilities since they are designed to work with any class. They do grant bonuses that might be useful to a wide variety of classes as well as offer some actual new abilities as well. If you... and I've scrolled down, that's really stupid. If you think your action bar is full, then you might want to head for passive bonuses instead of active abilities. Okay, that's kind of neat. You're going to have a choice between the two. Intriguing, ladies and gentlemen. I like the idea of Path of the Titans. Again, that's about diversifying the classes beyond where they are right now. And funnily enough, it matches up quite nicely to that email we had earlier. You remember that thing about progression paths? There. That's another way of progressing. That's another way of diversifying. That sounds good, honestly. I would like to see that happen. And, of course, it is happening in Cataclysm. Very positive idea. Next question. Will the new guild perk system kill a lot of smaller guilds? Answer is, our goal is not to encourage players to have to change their existing guild. We realise some players like smaller guilds and some like larger guilds. We don't want to ask you to change that. The question is, of course, how exactly they're going to make that happen. The issue with the guild levelling, more so than anything, is that if it's going to be a combined effort, then surely a bigger guild is going to progress faster than a smaller one. And if that doesn't happen, then that's going to encourage players to form really small guilds. Maybe even say, you want to do some crazy guild leveling or whatever, you split your guild down the middle, and you split your guild into, say, 10-man teams, and if it's sort of done in a ratio as opposed to each person contributes a set amount, then the smaller guilds level up faster. So it's kind of a catch-22 more so than anything else. I don't know what to think of that, honestly. I would suggest that most people would be sensible. I'm sorry. How foolish of me. No, people won't be sensible at all. They will do the path of least resistance. They will do whatever it is and whatever it takes to make sure they level up in their guild as fast as humanly possible. As to how that's going to work, I don't know. And it seems to be one way or the other. Either you're going to have a situation where a smaller guild levels up faster because of the way that the ratios are, or you're going to have a system where a larger guild levels up faster. How are you going to balance that? I really don't know. It would be interesting to see, and we shall see what happens. Right, next one. Any improvements to the UI are being considered? I don't care. Any kinds of UI? No. Screw all of that, quite frankly. UI changes are boring. If you want to read it, you can go read it yourself. It's like, yeah, we're going to add this, we're going to add that, we're going to polish stuff up, yeah, whatever. Right. What changes are you most excited about? There's the interesting question for Blizzard. This is the last one in the general Cataclysm category. So, the answer is this. We are changing the old zones probably more than the most players realize. A place like Stone Talon is virtually unrecognizable. It has all new quests and item rewards and dramatic changes to the landscape. A zone like Western Plaguelands has actually been updated to reflect the fact that the Scourge are in retreat, which is not to say that the zone is without its dangers, however. Everywhere you're going to be, you're going to see something new and surprising. I think a lot of players are excited about the level 80 to 85 experiences they should be in the Goblin and Worgen zones, which, if anything, are better than the Death Knight starting zone. If you can believe that. Well, I can believe that. I never really liked that zone, honestly, but hey, I think I'm in the minority. But I think a lot of players, they say, are going to want to re-roll new characters of existing races and classes just to see how everything has changed. I don't know about that. It is possible. It doesn't surprise me that they're going for the major overhaul, the major update in terms of things like items, because, well, let's be honest here, the items right now are not great. I mean, the leveling up system is not great, the quests really aren't great, the questing hubs are not all that well designed. It's a bit of a mess overall. What else can you say? I might play it, honestly. I might have a look at it. It sounds like a reasonable idea. I can't say that I'll get through an entire alt. I mean, I've never succeeded so far. I only got to level 60 with my rogue for Arcanist Belt by using the Recruit a Friend system. So I don't know whether or not I'll really play an alt again. Maybe I'll RAF it up again. Maybe do a Troll Druid. Vorplatinga form, or Vorplatinga, I don't know how you pronounce it, whatever, it's that stupid rabbit with horns. Now, we'll move briefly on to Masteries before we go to the break. And first question in the Masteries category is this. Can you go into more detail on Vengeance, as it sounds like off-tanks will be at a significant disadvantage now? Okay, I don't know anything about this, so I'm not even going to bother. So let's go on to the next one. With armor class bringing mastery bonuses, will players never want to downrank from, say, leathered cloth? The answer is that's the idea, really. They can still wear the older armor, but they'll lose some stats from doing so. Fair, honestly. I don't like druids stealing my cloth gear, so I am fully in favour of the mastery. Next question. Can you allow points spent in your off-tree to give a diminished amount of mastery bonus towards your main tree so as to not nerf hybrid specs? Okay. Interesting idea. The answer is this. Does the Elemental Shaman really want more melee damage, though? Does the Shadow Priest really want to heal better? If anything, it feels like it would be a nerf to hybrid, since a Warlock would get more damage from any tree, while a DPS hybrid would only get more damage from their tree. If hybrids end up coming out a little short, we'll compensate in other ways, instead of doing hacky things with the mastery system. Yeah, I would have to agree with that, honestly. It sounds incredibly dumb to allow players to dip into multiple mastery trees. The point of the mastery trees is they're designed around your spec. The pure class stuff's going to be a bit generic, whereas the rest of it is going to be very specific with the hybrid classes and things like that. I mean, that makes sense to me, honestly. I don't see the problem with that. Now, we'll do the last one on Masteries, and then we'll go to the break. Compared to some third Mastery bonuses, Radiance, etc., others are a little boring, plus crit damage, etc. Intended comments? Well, the answer is this. The mastery bonuses are obviously a really new concept. The risk on the one hand is that they're too boring and don't affect gameplay. And on the other extreme, they take specs which already have a lot going on and just make them overcomplicated. For now, we want to implement a range, see what feels best in beta. We expect to iterate on these a lot. Well, to be honest, I think the best way of doing this would be to have, say, a couple of boring-ish mastery bonuses and then a really crazy one. Like an ultimate mastery bonus if you go really far into the tree. That seems to be the way that it would work for me. I mean, that makes perfect sense. Hopefully we'll see that happen. My name's TotalBiscuit. You're listening to Two Please here on CynicalBrit.com, the second Blue Please of the week. This probably will not happen again, just FYI. I'll play some music, and I'm going to be back with more from the Twitter chat. Go check it out, and email your questions in for the Q&A. The Murloc at CynicalBrit.com. And yes, the chat is lagging horribly for whatever reason. I'll be right back after this, folks. Enjoy. You're listening to the podcast, an archive of Blue Please. Music was removed to comply with copyright law. If you'd like to hear the music, tune into the live stream on Fridays at 8 p.m. GMT. That's 3 p.m. EST, only on CynicalBrit.com. Yes, indeed, folks. Listen to Two Please here on CynicalBrit.com. I like doing that. I don't know why it's a rolling of the lips. Brit. Now, that's not like some angry, crazed land bird. Right, ladies and gents, let's continue with the Twitter chat. That's exactly what we're going to be doing. I want to talk about what Blizzard has said last night, as always, deliberately avoiding my show with it. The evil, mean bastards. Yes, right. Let's talk about it, shall we? If you haven't got this up, go over the MMO Champion. You should be able to see it right there. Now, we just covered the Masteries. Now, I'm skipping any question that I can't discuss at any kind of reasonable length. Like stuff like, oh, something Warriors. Don't care, don't play one, have no idea. So, if you want to read about that, then, well, go read about it yourself. Okay. Class mechanics. Firstly, how will haste affect channeled spells? Will it be similar to dots and hots? Answer, they will channel faster, but their duration will remain unchanged. You will get more ticks on the same cast. Ooh, that's interesting. Now, I'd say that might work really well for something like Blizzard. Now, that would be great. I wonder what that would actually do with arcane missiles, but I've also heard that's becoming some kind of proc, so I don't know as to whether or not that's going to count as a channeled spell anymore. I don't know, we'll see. I'm cool with that. Oh, that sounds like a really nice, interesting mix for things. And I'm sure that is going to make a big difference to healing druids. Next, when does the homogenization of classes stop? Paladins are starting to look like priests. Where is the diversity? Answer, we want the challenge of beating PvE encounters or enemy teams in PvP to be how awesome you are at strategizing, not how often you are recruiting particular classes. While it is very, very important for classes to feel different, it's also very important to us that friends get to play together. That's nonsense. I'm sorry, that is an absolute nonsense answer. Look, the fact of the matter is, friends get to play together in any raid content. They were always able to do that. Always. There was a place in even old raid content for the most obscure of specs. Admittedly, there weren't many places, but the places were there nonetheless. We're not talking about that. That's pulling the whole social card. Like, yes, well, you know, we want people to play together. They're going to play together one way or the other, whether or not you make their class as homogenized as hell or so incredibly diverse that it only fits a really tiny niche. They're going to figure it out. There are plenty of guilds that already do the content with a non-optimal setup. I mean, for God's sake, we did ICC 10 the other day with 4 paladins. 4 paladins! There's no good reason for that at all, but hey, we just happened to have a situation whereby we couldn't go in with anything else because people were off for whatever reason. Back in the day, you used to be able to do that. You know, maybe the hardest of the hard content required a very specific lineup, but that is never going to change. I think, thus far, it has been proven that Blizzard's design just simply does not work on a purely class-neutral basis. At all, it just doesn't. So, what you've got to think about is the fact that the element of class choice and the element of certain classes being better at certain things than others is always going to be there, and trying to get rid of that is dumb. It will never ever work. And yes, friends will still play together. Don't throw that at me. That makes the rest of us who are fighting against this sound like arseholes. It's like the whole charity Pandaren thing. I'm sure that was on purpose. Right, next question. Is every healer supposed to be able to tank heal effectively, or will we see specs excel in it more than others? Answer is each healer is intended to have a different niche and different strengths, such as restoration druids with HUTs, or paladins at direct healing. Discipline priests absorption / prevention, etc, etc. That said, each healer should be able to keep up a tank and have some deeper tank healing gameplay as they do now. Well, to be honest, that's sort of how they are at the moment, and the thing is, on the hard content, you're still going to pick the optimal healer. And you can't make every healer as optimal as the other for healing a tank or healing the raid. That's just the way of it. I'm okay with a healer being able to heal the tank at a pinch or assist with the tank, but saying, hey, look, you have taken a... I don't know what I'm saying now. It's completely gone out of my mind. Let's try that one again. You've taken a Resto Druid and you've given him the task of main healing the tank in a really hard encounter as a tree. Then you've got to look at the guild and say, what the hell are you doing? This is incredibly dumb, guys. Seriously. Not good at all. Next question. How will active spellers more powerful be handled with no more dot clipping? Answer. How about we get rid of a more powerful spell as active altogether? If you have some bonehead overriding your more powerful buff or debuff, we'd rather you handle that issue socially. Right. Okay. I'm not so averse to that, honestly. That's fine by me. I don't see the problem with having players take this kind of thing into their own hands and not keep it out of the way with some kind of contrived mechanic. Okay. Right. Next category is this. Cataclysm raids and dungeons. Can you make crowd control in raids of 5-mans an important aspect of the PvE game? Again, an emphatic yes! Oh, thank God for that. Instead of...
Not one, but 2 Manga worms.
Let's have some effort in design. Please, make 5-man heroics hard again. If crowd control is going to be an issue, I will be very happy with that. Okay, next question. With more players raiding in Wrath than ever before, do you plan to raise the difficulty to accommodate our new skill and experience? Interesting. Answer. The heroic difficulty is designed for the players looking for more of a challenge. One of the things we learned from Icecrown is that we unlocked the heroic mode so late that players had tons of practice on the encounters on normal mode, so the step up was smaller than it was in, say, Ulduar, when players on hard mode were still learning some of the encounter basics. In our defense, though, because of the time of year we released Icecrown, we made a conscious decision not to ask players to choose between holiday events and hard mode raiding. Oh yeah, because that matters, isn't it? Oh, Insidia. You are in such a bind. It's such a drag that you have to choose between doing the Wintervale cookie quests and doing hard mode Lich King. Woe is us. Woe is me. What a terrible argument. Come on, Blizzard. Is that the best you can come up with? Who really believes that? God. That's so bad. So bad. I don't know if I agree with that, to be honest. I don't even know what they're getting at. I mean, they're getting at the point that... What is it? What are they saying here? Let's read that again. The heroic difficulty is designed for players looking for more of a challenge. Yeah, we get that. Okay, hard modes. One of the things that we learned from Icecrown is that we unlocked the heroic mode so late that players had a ton of practice on the encounters on normal. Okay. And... What is it you're getting at here, Blizzard? I don't understand. I don't know what you're saying here. Are you saying that that's a bad thing? That it's a good thing? That's a bad thing that people had tons of practice? That it's a bad thing that you had unlockables to begin with and you didn't just allow people to play the hard modes from the very start? What are you saying? I mean, you can't be saying that heroic ICC is all that hard. Oh, now, what the hell am I saying? God, I'm losing my mind here. I'm trying to understand what they're saying here. You can't seriously be saying that heroic ICC is easy. It's not. It obviously is not. Getting a ton of practice on the encounters doesn't seem to have helped all that many guilds, honestly. Right. Okay. I don't know. Whatever the case, I say it before, and I say it again, quite simply this, ladies and gentlemen, that a game with only easy and hard modes in it is a broken game, where is normal? Next question. Will Ragnaros have a new weapon in Cataclysm, considering that we stole and reforged his? I'm sure he's not all that happy about it. Alright, okay. Oh, come on. It never actually dropped for you. Yes, indeed. Then again, is there really much demand for a strength, stamina, fire resist, cosmetic, fireball proc weapon? Yes, absolutely. Bring it on. I would like to see that. I assume that they're going to be putting that kind of thing in there. I do wonder what the role of legendaries actually is these days. So little fuss about Shadowmourne and things like that. So little fuss. So I am not 100% sure what they're trying to do with legendaries. I'm sure we'll see a few more of them. Right, moving on to Cataclysm. Items. Will relics and wands be getting any new attention in Cataclysm? With relics, the plan was to make them class agnostic. In other words, there might be a plus strength relic that a Death Knight or Paladin might want to equip. We think that will let us add more of them to the game without being so specialized. They will feel more like wands. How to make wands or relics a bigger part of the gameplay is something that we've had many, many discussions on. Ultimately, though, we'd rather see warlocks, mages, and priests casting their spells, not zapping someone with a wand. In Cataclysm, we don't expect to see much wanding even at lower levels. Well, there's no surprise there. Honestly. I don't know. Wands are... The fact that they're stat sticks is kind of upsetting. Because if it was just another piece of equipment, then it would be fine. The thing is, you can shoot these damn things. And there's no point. There literally is no benefit. I don't know how you'd fix that, though. I can't really figure that one out. Is there anything that you could honestly do that would make that worthwhile? Anything at all? Other than it being a stat stick? I don't think so. Nothing that I can think of off the top of my head. Right, next question. What will happen to our gems and enchants on gear that gave us stats that are being removed in Cataclysm? We are going to change most gems and enchants that have obsolete stats like armor pen and defense ... Well, thanks, Blaze, that's really helpful. So they're going to change them to something else, apparently. So if I log in and see all the spell-powered gems become spirit gems, then I'm going to be very upset. Next question. When you say you're going to make relics class agnostic, does that include druids, idols as well? Druid, shaman, paladin, and death knight, they say. It's possible that we will still keep some that are very specific to certain classes and specs. Overall, though, we're not happy with the current state of the design where an ability procs a buff on you. If it's an ability you don't use often, then the item is terrible, so you end up feeling really passive already. At the same time, the fact that we have to offer so many prevents us from ever giving you the choice of which one to use. So we make the Resto Druid or Enhanced Shaman version every new tier. It would be a more interesting decision if there was a crit plus intellect relic and a haste plus intellect relic, and then you can choose which one to use on that basis. Maybe. Or maybe you just have one that's stats and then a very minor bonus. And instead of being a big bonus to a certain spell that's very specific. So, yeah, like you said, there is really absolutely no choice there whatsoever. Maybe you just give it a little boost. Just something small. Why not? That sounds like a reasonable plan to me. Give that a bash. Right, okay, we've got PvP here, and then it's all class stuff. So I'm going to ignore the class stuff, but I'll also have a look at the miscellaneous. Okay, PvP. Thanks for having this chat, says one sycophant. I have to say that I feel many changes are PvP orientated. Is the game shifting towards PvP? What, really? I didn't see all that many PvP related changes. I mean, I saw some rather important stuff. Okay. What we're trying to do at this point in the game is make abilities more niche and interesting rather than adding Sinister Strike with a different name. A lot of talents and abilities we add initially only seem to have a PvP role, but eventually will also prove useful in PvE situations, like Dispersion, Body and Soul, or Typhoon. Right, okay. That's fair. Like I said in a previous show, that you remember that wall of fog thing that the mages are getting, and also the smoke bomb, the things that are movement based. I expect to see raid encounters that take that into account, honestly, and I think that will change the PvE game to some degree. It's unfortunate that it probably won't be happening all that much in the 5-mans, because of course you're not going to have these abilities until level cap. But I would like to see a couple of harder 5-man dungeons, literally end tier 5-mans, before you go into your raiding, that take these mechanics into account and allow you to use them. Makes sense. Okay. Next question. Will there be as much effort put into making tanking specs viable in PvP? Will Vengeance be useful in PvP? Whatever, tanking specs, meh. Let's move on to Misk. Where is my moose? Answer. Well, we're looking for a zone where the moose would really fit. Unfortunately, we did the perfect zone for them. Grizzly Hills already. No, there are no bears in Grizzly Hills, and there are certainly no Misas in Grizzly Hills. On the other hand, let's just say we have a large Egyptian-themed desert zone in Cataclysm. Really? Do we? Where? Which one? I'm not familiar with this. I've got to find this large Egyptian-themed desert zone. What if it's Silithis? Let's see. Because, I mean, that's the Egyptian one, surely. Are they adding another one? See if there's anything on the previews. Gilneas, Lost Isles. Is it Lost Isles? No, I guess not. Bissellmore, Hygel for shit. No, I don't know what that is. If you can let me know, email the Murloc at cynicalbrit.com, because I would like to know exactly what's going on there. Okay, what else have we got in this silly set of questions? What are your plans to eliminate the pollution problem in Azeroth? Motorcycles, planes, methane from Kodo Gas Venture Company. Oh my, the climate change! Well, on one hand, there would be more druids with trolls and Worgen joining the ranks. On the other hand, there will be more goblins, and you know goblins just don't care. They have this section in Ogrimmar where they have their little beach chairs set up to look out on a view of oil drums floating in the lake. On the third hand, you'll be clearing up the toxic waste in Gnomeregan if you can retake it. Okay. Yeah, nice. Last but by no means least. Okay, maybe it is least. I've been playing since vanilla. The consciousness you've applied to make this game grow is praiseworthy. Thank you. Answer, you're welcome, sycophant. One of the challenges of... They didn't actually say that. One of the challenges of Cataclysm is to change enough to be exciting, but not as much as that the game feels unrecognisable to long-term fans. A lot is changing, but it's still World of Warcraft. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, quite. Okay. That's quite enough of that. Right, ladies and gents. You're listening to Blue Please here on cynicalbrit.com with myself, TotalBiscuit. Gonna be right back after the break with a Q&A. Sending your questions to the Murloc at cynicalbrit.com. Whatever the hell you want, I really don't care. Also, you can send me PMs via the chat room, which is lagging to hell, or the IRC chat, which, well, isn't. Which is always nice. Get your Q&As in for whatever the hell you want, and I'll do the questions and answers. Then we'll probably end the show at that point. I'd like to play some Bad Company 2 after this, by the way, so if anyone's up for some explosions, which are always good, then you can head over to the Cynical Brit server after the show. In the meantime, let's play some music. That's always a good thing. Yeah, something classic. I don't need to announce this. Enjoy. You're listening to the podcast, an archive of Blue Please. Music was removed to comply with copyright law. If you'd like to hear the music, tune into the live stream on Fridays at 8 p.m. GMT. That's 3 p.m. EST, only on cynicalbrit.com. Yes, indeed, folks, you're listening to Two Please here on cynicalbrit.com with myself, TotalBiscuit. I was hoping to get an entire show out of this Twitter chat, but it's just way, way shorter than the previous one. That's very upsetting, really, isn't it? Oh, well, never mind. So, I'll do a little bit of a Q&A, just a short one, and then I think we'll cap off the show at that. After that, I want to play some Bad Company 2, so if you head over to the Cynical Brit server, you just go on to Bad Company 2, look at the server browser, search for Cynical Brit. Yes, easy enough. Not too difficult. All you need to do is just order it in alphabetical. You'll see it there, cynicalbrit.com server. Right, in the meantime, let's get to this Q&A. Got quite a few questions in the mailbox. You can send them in via the chat as well. irc.quakenet.org, #cynicalbrit, or you could use the video chat in the live stream, but I don't know. I mean, it's really laggy right now. It's like 10 minutes behind for some reason. Tiny chat tends to get really bad on a Saturday. That's just the way of it. It's usually alright on the Friday evening. Oh, well, never mind. Okay, let's make a start, shall we? Go and have a look, see what we have in the mailbox. And just making sure my mail is updated. There we go. Right, okay, first question is this one from Garrett Wheeler. Do you think Activision is to blame for Blizzard's money-whoring ways? Before the merger, they didn't do things like they have been doing for the past few years. I can't help but wonder if it's really Activision. I don't know. There's no way to really tell. It's easy enough to say, oh, look, it's Activision's fault for all of this, but they have also gone out and claimed that Blizzard does whatever Blizzard wants to do, and part of the contract was, you don't touch Blizzard. That said, I'm sure part of the contract was probably, you don't touch Infinity Ward either, but that ended up happening, didn't it? So, I don't know, honestly. I think there might be a hand in it, really. I don't think you can really argue, because this is not a decision that I think Blizzard made on its own. I think they of course, made the final stroke of the pen. They signed off on it. So you can blame them for approving it there, but I don't think it was initially their idea. I don't think they were going down this road of let's sell premium in-game items for money. I don't think that's something that was on their minds. Well, maybe it was at the back, and then they just dismissed it and said this is a really weird way of doing things, especially when we're charging $15 a month for a subscription. So, yeah, I think words have been had with Activision, honestly, but there's no real way to prove it, and there never will be, so it's kind of pointless to speculate. Right, Question from Holly Ari. While looking at all the Cataclysm changes, most classes seem to be getting a movement speed bonus, movement-friendly attacks. The Druids are even getting basically a raid-wide sprint. Do you think that means there's going to be a lot more movement-based fights in Cataclysm? What's your opinion on that? Yes, there will be a lot more movement-based fights in Cataclysm. I would stake money on it. There's not a question about that. The Wall of Fog thing, it's pretty obvious that if that's going to have any kind of PvE utility, there's going to be a lot of movement involved. The Smoke Bomb thing, that's a big deal as well. And there are a number of other things, of course, like those sprints, the life grip, as they're calling it. So, yeah, I think there's going to be a lot more movement. As to what I think of that, yeah, movement's fine. Movement's a good element of a boss fight. Anything that stops you from standing there hitting 2-2-2-2-2-3 for 5 minutes without doing anything is good. And there's quite a lot of movement involved already. It just makes me wonder if it's going to have any more movement other than stat out of the fire. You know, are they going to be able to use movement in a more advanced fashion? Perhaps you have to move to certain areas to do more damage or whatever. That would be interesting. I'd like to see that happen. Some kind of zone-based damage. Right, next question. Here we go. Here's a quick question. It's not all that quick. It's 2 paragraphs. It's from the Jazz, level 80 priest on... Well, I assume that that's not the name of a server. The Virgin Islands, one would assume. He's on an island. Very nice. Right, quick question. Blizzard seem to claim that they want 10-man hard modes to be on par with 25. This seems to be true for gear in terms of item level. More often than not, the 10-man hard mode items are better itemized, so I'm not complaining. However, why is it that we still can't complete the Shadow's Edge questline in 10-man hard mode fights? It involves stuff like killing Festagut and Rotface in 25-man normal ICC, which isn't really hard at all. Why can't those of us who raid 10-man hard modes get the same chance at Shadow's Edge? Hell, I'd say from my experience that Festagut and Rotface are harder in 10-man on hard mode than 25. So, DB, do you reckon that Blizzard are going to keep pretending to have an equality between 25-man normal and 10-man hard in Cataclysm without it actually being the case across the board? I asked Blizzard this last night on Twitter, but they didn't come around to answering it, but then again, they did have 900 questions or so per minute. That's a tough one. We had this discussion a while ago on Blue Please when this came into the spotlight, and it was a question that was asked, and the conclusion really was they've got to make a call one way or the other. The funny thing is, we thought they'd made the call. They said, look, it's not going to be equal, deal with it, and to be honest, I was fine. But that's not been the case, has it? It was back in the day when there was the controversy regarding the difficulty level of Obsidian Sanctum, yeah? We're talking about Sartharian 3 Dakes 10-man versus Sartharian 3 Dakes 25-man. Nasty tongue twister. So, you thought about that, and you've got to consider whether or not they decided, actually, maybe it's just a good idea to make it the same kind of difficulty or not. I don't know if they're deliberately aiming to do anything at this point. Honestly, I really don't. I think the case that we have right now is they're designing fights and they're just letting the chips fall. Like, we designed a fight, this is how it's designed, we're not really all that concerned as to whether or not it's on par or easier or harder. We're going to allow the variants to exist and we're going to treat them as separate progression paths. I don't know though. If you're treating them as a separate progression path, then you'd think that you'd at least give people a shot at some kind of item like Shadowmourne. I don't know. It's the problem with legendaries. Legendaries are such a weird thing. No one really knows the purpose of legendaries overall, and they've always been the big items that you can get from 25 man. They've always been incredibly rare. If you give a 10-man raid a legendary, then people will take the path of least resistance in order to get that fabled orange item. They will. And they will do the 10-mans if need be. Makes sense, doesn't it? You can get 2.5 groups in 10-mans as opposed to 1 25-man, which means you can get the chance at 2 legendary items as opposed to 1. So you'd think that a lot of guilds would do that, and I think they want to ensure that guilds aren't just doing 10-man raids for the sake of getting stuff. They're either choosing to be a 10-man guild or a 25-man guild, and of course there are various logistical reasons for that. What I would say is perhaps they might want to consider a different kind of legendary. Either that or they change legendaries and bring in the artifact level weapons. You go for the 25-man hard modes as artifact level weapons, and then maybe you give legendaries to the 10-mans. Sounds like a reasonable bet in my opinion. Okay, let's have a look at what else we've got in the mailbag. Quite a few things. Let's see. Here's one. The Egyptian zone is Oldham. We're not entirely sure where we read it, but it's probably Oldham. There, yeah, it is, actually. I remember that. Right, this one's from Psytrip on... He was on Dreamwalker last week and Princess this week. Yeah, Dreamwalker's such a pointless fight. Grats to the Restless Natives for bringing that down. Hey TB, what sort of bosses would we be expecting in Cataclysm? Of course, we know Deathwing will be present, with his veins of absolute carnage and lava, and Ragnaros will be creating mayhem and Hyjal, but that's about all we've heard. We're not going to have silly filler bosses like a lot of the random ones suddenly conjured up in Icecrown, right? Yeah, you absolutely will have a lot of silly filler bosses. Every dungeon's had a lot of silly filler bosses. That's the thing about it. You can't have major lore characters dying off left, right, and centre all the way through an expansion. That's why in ICC, you've got Syndragoza is like a minor lore character. And then you've got Lich King, which is a major lore character. And then you've got... who? Well, nobody, really. I mean, Sourfang, I suppose, is a minor lore character. But everyone else, yeah, they were just made up for the sake of it. So... you're going to have a lot more of that. They make up enemies. They create adversaries' henchmen, effectively, is what we're talking about right here. Like, you've got your major boss at the end, who'll be a major lore character, which will get killed, and then you end up killing all of his lieutenants before that, and yeah, it's just to fill time. Yeah, you're going to have more things like this, honestly. I don't know much about the lore, so I really can't comment on this overall, but to not expect major lore characters... and to not expect there to be a bunch of filler is kind of crazy, honestly. You've got to consider that as a real possibility. They're not going to be able to pack it full of big names in the WoW history, because then you're going to run out of big names halfway through the damn raid progression. Okay, here's one. Hey TV, how much would you say that Blizzard let down players who started in vanilla with Wrath? And is Jeremy Clarkson your uncle, father, brother? I wish. Well, to some degree I do. Jeremy Clarkson is an inspiration to us all, ladies and gents. Right. How much did they let us down? A ton. I mean, you've heard the shows. You know how absolutely disillusioned I am with Wrath of the Lich King and WoW as a direct result of Wrath. It's a betrayal, in my opinion, of the initial point of raiding. It's a mess. It's also a betrayal of Five Mans. It's a betrayal of the heroic concept that came in Burning Crusade. So much of a mess. I mean, the badge system completely ruined as well. It's... God. I mean, Wrath of the Lich King has been the worst time for me in WoW, honestly. It's been... I have only enjoyed myself, really, a few times. I've tried gimmicks like Arcanist Belt just to keep me interested. I've done all sorts of things. And... I still play the game from time to time, but I play way less than I used to. And I have looked at other games. Star Trek Online is a prime example. Sadly, Star Trek Online suffers the same issue that Wrath's got. It's too freaking easy. There's no point in having an advanced combat system involving maneuvering around and doing cool Star Trek stuff if all you need to do is sit there and spam the spacebar in order to kill anything and everything. That's bad. I'll be going back to that when they bring in those difficulty sliders that they said they would, so I'll be able to ramp up the difficulty of the content and hopefully make it interesting. However, I think that Wrath has been a betrayal to the old school players, but you've also got to bear in mind that games have to move forward, and sometimes they won't move forward in the correct direction, but they've got to move one way or the other. So I think Blizzard has learned a lot. All the Cataclysm stuff thus far sounds really, really good, with the exception of a couple of minor details, so I'm hoping that Cataclysm will be the charm on this one. Should be good. I hope. God, I hope so. Right. Do we have anything else? We've got a couple of questions in the IRC channel. This is not WoW related, but I'll answer it anyway. What's the name of your favourite platforming game on the PC? I don't like platforming games, so I don't think that counts. But I suppose I could go with Jazz Jackrabbit. There, go download Jazz Jackrabbit. That's quite the game. Awesome game. I would pay good money for a good remake of that particular title. Question from Alandor. Can you teach me that awesome accent of yours? Well, that's very flattering, but no. Look, I say this to anyone that wants to start podcasting and everything. A radio voice is something that you can develop and practice over time. There's no real trick to it, to my knowledge. I fell upon it entirely by accident with practice. Just come up with something that's a little bit larger than life. I don't speak this way to everyone in real life. It would terrify them. And for God's sake, it's like you're shouting at people. I speak in a more moderate tone. Sometimes. Not always. And it comes down to developing a style that you feel comfortable with, and something that is entertaining to listen to. It's as simple as that. Right, ladies and gents, I think I'm about done for the day. I would do shout-outs. Actually, I'll do a few shout-outs that are in the email. Email them in, folks, because the chat is lagging to all hell. Email the Moloch at cynicalbrit.com. That is the Moloch at cynicalbrit.com, or send me a message over IRC. Yes, indeed, because that chat in the cynicalbrit.com homepage is lagging to all hell. Send me those shout-outs. I'll get them in for the last few minutes of the show. Then we're going to play Bad Company 2. Right, shout out here. So, it's Bad Company 2 time. Right. That's from Ragavale, Doomhammer EU. Well, yes, indeed. I suppose it is Bad Company 2 time. We're going to make that happen. What else have we got in terms of shout-outs? We've got a shout-out here. Hey, TB, sorry for the early email requesting a shout-out, but I won't be around tonight, so I'm going to hear it in the archive. A shout-out to Draki on Dragonblight, my new 5v5 arena team, That Retarded Horse. Yes! Oh, I love it so very much. Can I give a shout out to Nymph for soon dinging level 80 on its Shaman. Yes, indeed, you can have that. I am okay with that. No problem whatsoever. Give a quick shout out as well to those who are in the chat wall at the moment, even though it's lagging to all hell. B-Drone, who looks to be a little bit tired, honestly. I think he needs to be re-energized by some metal at the end of the show. John Carney, who has pointed his cam at a window the entire time. Tone Slice, who has a rotating Mercury on a turntable. It's rather nice. One Avatar One, who appears to be wearing some kind of basket on his head. He's some kind of basket case, perhaps. And some guy, Court, who's looking rather depressed, honestly. Cheer up. Now, I'm sure there are other people, but again, chat's lagging, so there's not a lot I can do about that. Shout out to X-Cola, first-time live listener in the mountains from Rhinoa. Keep up the good work with the show, TB. Yes, indeed. You can have that shout-out. And a shout-out to everyone, absolutely everyone who replied to the That Retarded Horse video on YouTube, regardless of whether or not it was a negative response or a positive response, because every single one of you helped the success of the site, drove traffic to the site, gave us ad revenue, so at the end of the day, only one of us has the last laugh, ladies and gents, so allow me to have it right now. Ha ha! Mate, wait a minute, I'm sure we can do better than that. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. You've been listening to the special double edition of Blue Please here on CynicalBrit.com. Check out the rest of the shows on iTunes, rate and review us. It's all good, it's all fantastic. Thank you very much. You are a fantastic audience if you're in the live chat. Bad Company 2 time, ladies and gents. Let's get on the server and blow stuff up with a Carl Gustav. Preferably not me. Good night. You have been listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Please, WoW's #1 shock jock show, only on CynicalBrit.com. We'd love to hear from you, so feel free to leave a comment on the Cynical Brit website or write a review of the show on iTunes. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.